Welcome back to ZNGP today. Marc Márquez left Assen with 37 points in his pocket, the perfect weekend on paper. But behind the celebrations, the Ducati rider revealed a weight that overshadowed the result. His brother Álex's injury during the race left him with a victory he couldn't fully enjoy. After another stellar Assen weekend, Marc Márquez on top step and Pecco Bagnaia third, team director Davide Tardozzi offered his insights into both performances. While Marquez's synergy with the Desmosedici GP25 is now undeniable, Bagnaia continues hunting the precise setup that once made him unstoppable. Here's Tardozzi's candid take on Ducati's 2 stars and the path forward. Amidst growing speculation over Jorge Martin's desire to exit Aprilia a year early, Dorna CEO Carmelo Ezpeleta delivered a decisive verdict. No rider can join the grid, including Martin, without either a mutual agreement or a court decision. Aprilia Racing's Massimo Rivola swiftly backed the stance, outlining the 2 paths forward to resolve the impasse. Jack Miller arrived at Assen hoping to convert a strong qualifying into a big sprint and feature result. Instead, the Pramac Yamaha ace found himself mired in Dutch traffic, ultimately finishing 14th, exactly where he started. Miller's candid reflection sheds light on the challenges of Assen's pack racing and the fine margins that separate breakthrough moves from gridlock. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Marc Márquez was again untouchable in Assen, winning both the sprint and the full-length Grand Prix. But the cost came during the main race, when Álex Marquez crashed while dueling with Pedro Acosta and fractured his index finger, requiring immediate surgery. I'm not 100%, because family is more important than a victory. It's left me with a bittersweet taste. I thank Ducati for the effort, but family is family in the end, Marquez said. Even with a title lead extending well beyond 60 points, Marquez chose empathy over ego. The celebration felt incomplete, proof that personal stakes run deeper than championship standings. When some online critics accused Álex Marquez of not attacking Marc aggressively enough, the 8-time champ didn't stay quiet. Yesterday, I found it disrespectful to question our work. People doubt that Álex wasn't attacking me. What happened today? Bezzecchi didn't attack me either. Marquez defended both his brother and his own riding integrity, highlighting track conditions, rider strengths, and braking strategy as the real deciders, not some unspoken team order. He reminded viewers that from the couch, racing always looks easier than it is. Once again, Marquez acknowledged that pure speed wasn't the winning factor, it was intelligent racecraft. Bezzecchi was faster than me, but I was able to defend myself and maintain that +0 gap. Even under pressure, Marc leaned on precision and timing. By focusing on braking zones and holding his line in vulnerable sections, he neutralized Bezzecchi's charge with clinical efficiency. Despite leading the standings, Marquez remains wary of the season's long road ahead, especially with back-to-back GPs looming. We're not even halfway through the championship. There are a lot of races where we have to stay focused. His words are a reminder that MotoGP is a marathon, not a sprint. Injuries, pressure, and weekend chaos can flip the narrative at any point, and Marc knows that better than anyone. Reflecting on his Ducati journey, Marc subtly addressed the growing speculation about his expected switch to the factory Lenovo team. We do deliver, but the risk is showing yourself in front of everyone, making the decision to come to Gresini and then potentially moving to Lenovo. With his consistent dominance and unshakable focus, Marquez has transformed Gresini into a title-contending operation. But the pressure of the factory bike looms, and he knows the weight of expectations will only grow. In a weekend that should have been triumphant, Marc Márquez once again revealed his depth, not just as a tactician and leader, but as a brother and realist. With family on his mind and the championship in his hands, Assen wasn't just another win. It was a reminder that even for the best in the world, Racing is never just about racing. Tardozzi highlighted a transformation in Marc's approach this season, a rider who not only attacks but trusts his machine completely. Marc has found special confidence on the bike and can be expected to fight for victory at every circuit, Tardozzi said. From Mugello to Assen, Marquez has melded his trademark aggression with a newfound calm, balancing risk and reward. Physically peak and mentally sharpened, he now extracts maximum performance lap after lap. Even a champion has room to grow. Tardozzi praised Marc's collaboration with engineers, which amplifies his inherent talent. There are always some weak points, but his professionalism, how he works with the engineers, is exceptional. Every tweak, every data review hones Marquez's edge. His ability to analyze and adapt setup nuances turns minor chassis or electronics changes into race-winning advantages. For Pecco, the problem isn't speed, it's sustaining it. Tardozzi pinpointed a critical phase where Bagnaia lost momentum. Pecco lacked necessary consistency at a certain point. He pushes so hard he doesn't allow himself to miss even half a second. Bagnaia's opening salvo often rivals Marquez's best, but tire degradation or setup mismatch forces him into damage control. The quest: unlock a setup that mirrors his flawless rhythm. Tardozzi refused to downplay Bagnaia's P3, calling it a beacon of promise amid challenges. Of course it's positive. Pecco still has his speed. When we find the right bike feel, he'll compete head-to-head with Marc. Every podium rebuilds confidence. Bagnaia's talent remains intact. A few targeted setup solutions, especially in braking and entry, could unleash him fully. At the crux lies belief. Tardozzi affirmed the team's mission: deliver the bike that recaptures last year's ease for Bagnaia. It's not speed he lacks, but that touch of confidence to drive with the ease he had last year. We're determined to regain it. Regaining fluidity in corner entry and trust in the front end will be the keystone. With Marc already locked in, Ducati's focus shifts to restoring Bagnaia's faith in the Desmosedici. Ducati's garage pulses with potential and urgency. Marc Márquez's marriage to the Ducati is rock solid, delivering wins anywhere. Pecco Bagnaia, the proven champion, needs one small adjustment to transform podiums into victories. When Ducati finds that sweet spot, the factory team's title fight will truly become an internal duel for the ages. When Martin's manager Albert Valera claimed a 6-race performance clause freed him to sign elsewhere, Ezpeleta stepped in to stop the controversy. We will not accept the entry of a rider who is not free by decision of a judge or by an agreement between the parties. Ezpeleta's statement. In Dorna's view, mere contract clauses are insufficient. Only a clear mutual termination or judicial verdict can strip a rider of a binding deal. It's a safeguard against off-season poaching and legal loopholes. Ezpeleta underscored Dorna, MSMA, and IRTA's 35-year history of upholding agreements. Contracts, he reminded, exist to be honored or ended by mutual consent. If both parties come and tell me they've reached an agreement, no problem. If one party appeals to a court, then I'll wait for the court's decision. This policy cements Dorna's neutrality. It won't arbitrate disputes, but will defer to either private settlement or judicial authority, placing the onus on team and rider. Aprilia racing boss Massimo Rivola publicly thanked Ezpeleta, confirming Aprilia sees Martin's contract as fully valid despite his injuries and limited starts. If the rider wants to leave, we sit at a table. Otherwise, we sit in front of a judge, Rivola said. Rivola reiterated that Aprilia won't concede contractual ground. The team remains confident in its legal position under Italian jurisprudence, ready to negotiate or litigate. Both Dorna and Aprilia agree on only two outcomes: mutual termination or a binding judicial ruling. There's no room for unilateral withdrawal based on sporting performance. If they have millionaire offers, I honestly don't care, they stay with us. The stark choice underscores the seriousness of top-level racing contracts. Aprilia wields full rights until Martin and his management either strike a deal or lose in court. This ruling sends ripples through the MotoGP market. Teams eyeing post-2025 signings must now factor in the necessity of legal closure or negotiated release, slowing abrupt rider movements. With Martin's potential Honda switch in limbo, the grid's off-season plans hinge on how this saga unfolds. The clock is ticking toward contract deadlines and preseason tests. Carmelo Ezpeleta's intervention has turned Jorge Martin's contract saga into a test of legal muscle and negotiation rather than sporting choice. As Aprilia stands firm, the onus is on rider and management to either find common ground or face a judge's decision, ensuring that MotoGP's commercial integrity remains as fiercely protected as its on-track battles. Miller briefly climbed toward the top 10 at the start, but a stubborn battle with Enea Bastianini and a late pass from Brad Binder left him trapped in a bottleneck. It was pretty much a race stuck in the middle of the group, battling away. I was behind Enea for a long time and couldn't do much. Jack Miller's statement. Despite early optimism, Miller spent the majority of the 26-lap showdown shadowing Bastianini. Without a clear overtaking window, he lacked the space and momentum to mount a sustained attack, highlighting Assen's knack for neutralizing mid-pack runners. After dodging Fermin Aldeguer's crash by sliding onto the grass, Fabio Quartararo rejoined just ahead of Miller, only to become ensnared behind the same door-stopper, Bastianini. Even when Fabio passed me, I was curious to see what he could do, as he seemed to be carrying a bit more speed, but he also got stuck there. Miller's observation underscores the razor-thin setup differentials that can make or break a move. If even a former world champion can't find a way through, the block becomes almost impenetrable. Assen's high-speed chicanes demand stable engine braking and precise electronics. Miller experimented with Honda-derived mapping shifts, only to discover that each change cost him even more momentum. We struggled a bit with engine braking. I switched to map 2 on lap 3, then to map 3 on lap 10, and from that point I was done. I couldn't go anywhere. The constant juggling of electronic settings backfired, leaving Miller without the engine braking backstop he needed entering fast bends. With no front-end assistance from late braking, his overtaking arsenal was effectively neutralized. Although the raw result was disappointing, Miller remains a pragmatic engineer at heart, keen to mine positives from a frustrating weekend. We gathered some good information. There are positives on the bike and also areas where we clearly need to improve. Data on mapping performance, tire wear, and chassis feedback at Assen will feed directly into both Promac's factory development and Miller's own preparations, especially important ahead of next month's German GP. Assen's traffic jam showed that at some circuits, even on a Ducati-dominated weekend, Yamaha's Pramac squad must find sharper setup solutions and more decisive passing tools. Jack Miller departs Holland with lessons learned, a trove of new data, and eyes firmly on the Sachsenring. Meanwhile, his teammate Miguel Oliveira recovers from Sunday's crash and gears up for a Brno test, as both riders hunt for breakthroughs in the run to summer break. Thanks for watching ZNGP today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!